He was investigating a murder, but all the evidence pointed to himself. Detective Sam Holden hated working nights, but crime didn't schedule itself around convenience. The call had come in just after midnight, a body discovered at the Pinewood Motel, one of those decrepit roadside establishments on the outskirts of town where the neon sign flickered and the parking lot was perpetually half empty. Sam pulled up to the scene at 2:30 a.m., his headlights cutting through a fine mist that had settled over the area. The flashing red and blue lights of patrol cars painted the fog in alternating colors, creating an almost dreamlike atmosphere. He'd been working homicide for 15 years, and nights like these had long ago blurred together into a grim routine. Officer Martinez nodded to him as he ducked under the yellow crime scene tape. "Room 306, she said, her expression unreadable. "Medical examiner's already up there." "Any witnesses?" Sam asked, stifling a yawn as they walked toward the stairs. Night clerk saw the victim check in around 11 p.m. Nobody heard anything suspicious. Maid found the body when she went to clean the room this morning. Sam nodded absently, mentally preparing himself for what lay ahead. Another dead body. Another investigation. Another case file to add to the mountain of paperwork on his desk. At 43, the job had begun to wear on him, each death taking a little more out of him than he cared to admit. When they reached the third-floor landing, Sam noticed a strange tension among the officers gathered in the hallway. They fell silent as he approached, exchanging glances that sent a prickle of unease down his spine. "What's going on?" he asked. His partner, Detective Ray Diaz, stepped forward, his normally composed face betraying concern. "Sam, this one's different. I think you should prepare yourself." Sam frowned. "I've been doing this a long time, Ray. I doubt there's anything in there I haven't seen before." But as he pushed past his partner and stepped into room 306, a cold wave of dread washed over him, freezing him in place. The familiar smell of death hung in the air, but that wasn't what made his heart stutter in his chest. On the bed lay a man, a single bullet wound in his chest, blood soaking through his white shirt. A man with a face Sam knew intimately, because he saw it in the mirror every morning. The dead man was him. Sam felt the room tilt slightly. A cold sweat broke out across his forehead as he stared at his own face, pale and still in death. The same slightly crooked nose, broken in a bar fight 15 years ago. The same small scar on his chin from a childhood bicycle accident. Even the same faint lines at the corners of his eyes, earned from too many sleepless nights on the job. "This isn't possible," Sam whispered, his voice barely audible. Ray stepped closer, placing a steadying hand on his shoulder. "Sam. You know this guy?" Sam couldn't tear his eyes away from the body. That's me, Ray. That's my face." A heavy silence fell over the room. The crime scene technicians paused in their work, and the medical examiner looked up sharply. "What do you mean, that's you?" Ray asked, his voice tense. "Like a relative or something?" "No." Sam forced himself to approach the bed, his legs moving mechanically. "I don't have any brothers. No relatives that look like me." He leaned closer, noting the familiar stubble pattern, the mole just below the right ear. This is impossible." "Maybe it's just someone who looks similar," suggested Officer Martinez from the doorway, her voice uncertain. Sam shook his head. "Not similar. Identical." He gestured toward the victim's right hand. "Check his wrist." The me gently lifted the dead man's arm, turning it to reveal the inside of the wrist. There, just as Sam knew it would be, was a small tattoo of an eagle, the exact same tattoo Sam had gotten during his academy days. "Jesus Christ," Ray muttered. Sam's mind raced, searching for any rational explanation. "What do we know about him? ID? Anything?" The me reached for an evidence bag on the nightstand. Wallet was in his back pocket. Driver's license says his name is Samuel James Holden, Sam finished, already knowing what she'd say. She looked up, surprised. Yes. How did you? Sam reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his own wallet, flipping it open to reveal his driver's license. Because that's my name. Every pair of eyes in the room darted between the two identical IDs, then back to Sam and his deceased doppelganger. The silence that followed was thick with disbelief and growing suspicion. I don't understand, the me said finally, her professional demeanor cracking slightly. Is this some kind of joke? Does it look like I'm laughing? Sam snapped, immediately regretting his tone. Sorry. I need to think. He forced himself to look at the body again, this time with his detective's eye rather than through the lens of shock. The victim wore a navy button-down shirt and dark jeans, clothes identical to what Sam had in his own closet. The bullet wound was precise, a single shot to the heart. Professional. Not a crime of passion or a robbery gone wrong. Time of death? Sam asked, struggling to maintain his professional composure. The me hesitated, then answered. Based on liver temperature and rigor, I'd estimate between midnight and 1 a.m. Sam checked his watch. It was now 2:53 a.m. I was home at midnight. Alone. The moment the words left his mouth, he recognized how damning they sounded. No alibi. No witnesses. Ray cleared his throat. Let's get the motel's security footage. And Sam. He paused, clearly uncomfortable. Maybe you should step away from this one. Like hell I will, Sam replied, his voice low and steady despite the chaos in his mind. This is happening to me, Ray. I need to figure out what's going on. Detective Holden, came a new voice from the doorway. Captain Ellis, head of the homicide division, stood with her arms crossed, assessing the scene with evident concern. I just got filled in. I need a word with you. Outside. Now. Sam followed her into the corridor, aware of the eyes tracking his movement. Some curious, some wary. Sir, I can explain. Can you? Ellis cut him off. Because I've got a dead body in there with your face, your ID, and apparently your DNA, given the initial assessment. So please, enlighten me. I don't know what's happening, Sam admitted. But I swear to you, that's not me in there. I mean, obviously it's not me, I'm standing right here, but... Stop. Ellis raised a hand. I've known you for 15 years, Holden. You're one of my best detectives. But this... She shook her head. This is beyond unusual. I'm not suspending you, not yet. But you'll be supervised on this case. Detective Diaz doesn't leave your side, understood? And if I get even a whiff that you're interfering with evidence or misleading the investigation, you're done. Are we clear? Crystal, Sam replied, relief mixing with indignation. At least he wasn't being pulled off the case altogether. A uniformed officer approached, holding a tablet. Captain, we've got the security footage from the lobby ready. Sam, Ray, and Captain Ellis huddled around the small screen. The timestamp in the corner read 10:58 p.m. The grainy footage showed the motel lobby with its dated furniture and flickering fluorescent lights. The night clerk, a heavy-set man in his 50s, sat behind the desk, leafing through a magazine. At exactly 10:59 p.m., a man entered the frame. Sam felt a chill run through him as he watched himself, or someone who looked exactly like him, approach the front desk. The man moved with the same slight limp Sam had developed after a bullet grazed his left thigh during a shootout 3 years ago. He wore a jacket that Sam recognized as his own. That's not possible, Sam whispered. I was home last night. I left the precinct at 8, stopped for takeout at Chen's, and was home by 9. Can anyone verify that? Ellis asked, her tone carefully neutral. Sam hesitated. No. I live alone. But check my phone GPS, my car's tracker, anything. I wasn't here. On the screen, the doppelganger was signing the register. He paid in cash, smart, no credit card trail, and accepted a room key from the clerk. The timestamp now read 11:03 p.m. Do we have footage of the parking lot? Sam asked. I want to see what car he arrived in. The officer swiped to another video file. This one showed the dimly lit parking area. At 10:57 p.m., a dark sedan pulled into a space near the stairs. A moment later, the Sam lookalike emerged from the driver's side. That's my car, Sam said, his mouth dry. My personal vehicle. A 2018 Ford Taurus, license plate TRK 421. Ray and Ellis exchanged glances. Sam, Ray began cautiously, where's your car right now? In the lot downstairs. I drove here when I got the call. Let's go check, Ellis said, her expression grim. The group made their way down to the parking lot, tension building with each step. When they reached the ground level, Sam led them to where he'd parked his Taurus just 30 minutes earlier. It was there, exactly where he remembered leaving it. Pop the trunk, Ellis ordered. Sam complied, his hands steady despite the turmoil in his mind. The trunk was empty save for his emergency kit and a gym bag. Check the glove compartment, under the seats, everywhere, Ellis instructed. Officers descended on the vehicle, searching thoroughly. Nothing unusual, one reported after several minutes. Sam felt a mix of relief and frustration. He'd half hoped they would find something, anything that might explain what was happening. I want a forensic team to go over this vehicle inch by inch, Ellis said. And I want this man's background checked thoroughly. She nodded toward Sam. No offense, detective. None taken, Sam replied grimly. A young officer approached, looking uncertain. Sir. The night clerk would like to speak with you. Says he remembers something about the victim. Sam followed the officer back inside, Ray close behind him. The night clerk, whose nameplate identified him as Harold, sat nervously in a small break room off the lobby. Mr. Harold, Sam began, I understand you checked in the victim last night. Harold looked up, his eyes widening in shock. Jesus Christ, he exclaimed, jumping to his feet. You're him. You're the guy from last night. Calm down, sir, Ray interjected, positioning himself slightly between Sam and the clerk. This is Detective Holden. He's investigating the incident in room 306. Harold's eyes darted between the two detectives, confusion etched on his face. But you were here last night. I checked you in myself. He pointed a trembling finger at Sam. You paid cash for room 306. I remember because you said you'd lost your credit cards and had to use cash. Sam felt sweat beading on his forehead. Did I say anything else? Anything unusual? Harold nervously adjusted his glasses. You seemed. I don't know, distracted maybe. Kept looking at your watch. Asked if the rooms had good locks, said you were worried about security. He swallowed. And there was one strange thing. What's that? Sam leaned forward. You made a phone call while you were waiting for me to process your registration. I overheard a bit of it. You said something like, I'm in position. He'll be here soon. I figured you were meeting someone. Ray's hand drifted subtly closer to his service weapon. Mr. Harold, what time did you last see the victim alive? Around 11:15. He went up to his room and I didn't see him again. And did anyone visit him? Or did you notice anyone suspicious around that time? Harold shook his head. Sunday nights are quiet. There were only 4 other rooms occupied, all on the first floor. No one came or went after midnight as far as I know. I dozed off around 1 a.m., I'll admit. Woke up when Maria, she's the morning maid, started screaming. Sam struggled to process the information. Someone had impersonated him perfectly, used what appeared to be his car, and ended up dead in a motel room. None of it made sense. "Thank you, Mr. Harold," Ray said. "We may have more questions later." As they stepped out of the break room, Sam's phone vibrated in his pocket. He pulled it out, an unfamiliar number flashing on the screen. "Holden," he answered, his voice tense. There was silence for a moment, then a voice, his own voice, replied, "You're too close." Sam's blood ran cold. "Who is this?" he demanded, motioning frantically to Ray. "You know who this is," the voice said. "Stop looking. You won't like what you find. Tell me who you are." Sam shouted, but the line went dead. Ray was already on his radio. "I need a trace on a call just received by Detective Holden's phone," he said urgently, rattling off the number that had appeared on Sam's screen. Sam stared at his phone, a horrible thought forming. "Ray, we need to check the victim's personal effects. His phone, we need to find his phone." They rushed back upstairs to room 306, where the body was being prepared for transport to the morgue. The crime scene technicians had bagged all personal items found on the victim. "The phone," Sam said urgently to the lead technician. "Did you find a cell phone?" "Yes, in his jacket pocket," the technician replied, retrieving a sealed evidence bag containing a smartphone in a black case, identical to Sam's own phone. "Can you power it on?" Sam asked. The technician hesitated, looking to Captain Ellis for approval. "Do it," she nodded. "But document everything." The phone was removed from the evidence bag and powered on. It was secured with a fingerprint lock. Sam took a deep breath. "Try my print." Ellis raised an eyebrow but didn't object. The technician held the phone as Sam pressed his thumb to the sensor. The screen unlocked. A collective murmur ran through the room. Sam's mind reeled with implications. Not only did his double have his face, his car, and his ID, but a phone that recognized his fingerprint. "This is..." Sam trailed off, unable to articulate the impossibility of it all. The phone suddenly vibrated in the technician's hand. An incoming call, the display showed Sam Holden. Sam pulled out his own phone. He wasn't making a call. "Answer it," Ellis ordered. "Speaker." The technician swiped to accept the call and activated the speaker function. "You found it, didn't you?" came a voice, Sam's voice, from the device. "You found me." Every eye in the room turned to Sam, who stood frozen, hearing his own voice coming from the dead man's phone while he himself remained silent. "Who is this?" Ellis demanded. A soft chuckle came through the speaker. "The same question again. You're not asking the right ones. Ask him about Phoenix." Sam felt the blood drain from his face. "What's Phoenix?" Ray asked, looking at his partner. The voice on the phone continued, "He knows. Don't you, Sam?" August 17th. The night everything changed. "I don't," Sam began, but the voice cut him off. "You're lying. Just like you lied about Westmoreland. Just like you lied about the money." Sam's heart hammered in his chest. Westmoreland was an undercover operation from 2 years ago. An operation that had gone catastrophically wrong, resulting in the deaths of 2 officers and a civilian informant. An operation that only a handful of people knew the full details of. "How do you know about that?" Sam whispered. "Because I'm you," the voice replied simply. "The real question is, who are you?" The call ended abruptly. For several long seconds, nobody moved or spoke. Then Ellis broke the silence. "Detective Holden, I think you'd better start explaining. Now." Sam ran a hand through his hair, mind racing to process what he'd just heard. Westmoreland was an undercover op, he began slowly. Deep cover, tracking a gang moving guns across state lines. It went bad. We lost people. I remember the case, Ellis said. What I don't know is what it has to do with a dead body that looks exactly like you, with your ID, your fingerprints, and knowledge of classified operations. I don't know either, Sam admitted. But I need to find out. He turned to Ray. We need to check my house, right now. And I need protection for my ex-wife and daughter. Ellis nodded. I'll arrange for a patrol car at your family's residence. As for your house, Detective Diaz, take a team and go with him. And Holden, she fixed him with a hard stare, if there's anything you're not telling us, now would be the time. I've got nothing to hide, Sam said, meeting her gaze. The statement felt hollow even as he said it. Everyone had something to hide. 40 minutes later, Sam stood in his living room, surrounded by officers methodically searching his house. Everything looked exactly as he'd left it that morning, coffee mug in the sink, mail on the counter, bed unmade. Yet something felt off, as though the space had been disturbed in subtle ways he couldn't quite identify. In his home office, Ray examined Sam's laptop. Password protected, he said. Sam leaned over and typed in his credentials. The screen unlocked to reveal his desktop, everything appearing normal. Check the browser history, Sam suggested. Ray navigated through the browser and frowned. Last activity shows searches about identity theft, deep fakes, and facial recognition technology. He looked up at Sam. This from yesterday afternoon. Sam shook his head. I wasn't home yesterday afternoon. I was at the station until 8. We can verify that, Ray said, but his expression had grown more guarded. A shout came from the bedroom. Detectives! You need to see this. They rushed to Sam's bedroom, where an officer stood by the closet, pointing to something on the floor. Sam felt his stomach drop. Behind a row of shoes, barely visible, was a small black duffel bag he didn't recognize. That's not mine, he said immediately. Ray pulled on gloves and carefully unzipped the bag. Inside were bundles of cash, tens of thousands of dollars, a passport in Sam's name but with a different birth date, and a handgun with a silencer attached. Sam. Ray began, his voice heavy. That's not mine, Sam repeated, more forcefully. Someone planted it. The same someone who's been impersonating me. We'll process everything, Ray said neutrally. Forensics will check for prints, DNA. Sam's phone rang again, the same unknown number from before. He answered immediately, putting it on speaker. They found the bag, didn't they? His own voice asked calmly. Who are you? Sam demanded. What do you want? I told you to stop looking. The voice sounded almost sad. Now they're going to take you in. They'll run your prints, your DNA. And do you know what they'll find? Matches. Perfect matches. Then they'll start wondering about Phoenix. About what really happened to Carlson and Mitchell. Sam's blood ran cold at the mention of the 2 officers lost in the Westmoreland operation. I had nothing to do with their deaths, Sam said, aware of Ray and the other officers watching him intently. Can you prove that? The voice asked. Can you prove you're the real Sam Holden? Because from where I'm standing, I've got just as strong a claim. A pause. Maybe stronger. This is insane, Sam whispered. Check the underside of your kitchen table, the voice said suddenly. There's something there you need to see. Sam looked at Ray, who nodded. Together, they moved to the kitchen. Sam crouched down and ran his hand along the underside of the table. His fingers found a small object taped to the wood. He pulled it free, a USB drive. What's on it? Ray asked. I don't know, Sam replied honestly. Plug it in, the voice on the phone commanded. Alone. Ray shook his head. Not happening. Then you'll never know the truth, the voice said. About any of it. The call ended. Sam stared at the small device in his palm, overwhelmed by the feeling that whatever was on it would change everything. That somewhere in this nightmare of doubles and deception lay answers about who, or what, was hunting him. And why? The question remained, was he the hunter or the hunted? The detective or the victim? The real Sam Holden or just another reflection in an ever-deepening hall of mirrors? He closed his fingers around the USB drive, the weight of decision pressing down on him like a physical force. The truth was waiting. But was he ready to face it?